So good to see you all. So you all know me, but just for the recording, I'm Dr. 𝗵𝗲𝘀. I'm a clinical psychologist and leadership coach, and I help leaders and organizations create the conditions for sustainable success. Hi, Amy, good to see you. And that's kind of a different way to succeed that both supports your performance, but also your well-being and your relationships. So you don't have to sacrifice those things in the name of achievement or ambition. And I'm currently running my signature coaching program, Sustainable Success for Working Mothers. And I'm also working on making partnerships with organizations to help basically promote this for all their leaders and people on their teams. So I'm really excited to be doing that. I'm going to walk us through a workshop and interactive and give you a handout that you can take from here to actually put into action some different approaches to recovery that work better than I think the status quo of what we've been taught, even in the clinical psychology world. So many of us experience stress in our daily lives, often at work and at home, in our relationships, and it can be a path to burnout when we're go, 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 and we don't have enough recovery. And if we don't have the right types of recovery, we can get overloaded in different ways. And we often don't learn enough about recovery. And so we kind of go to the same go-tos, or as one of my friends recently said, yeah, I find I'm like, I know I need to recover, but I'm like, then in decision fatigue of like, do I do this or do I do that? Or, okay, I'm just going to end up numbing myself scrolling on the phone yet again. So that is why I'm sharing with you today. And thank you for the comments. Hopefully you can see those, Deanna. It was helpful for people. I'm going to share screen to a handout that I'm going to share with you all at the end of this. So don't feel like you have to memorize or take notes. But first of all, takeaway, recovery is really essential. Sometimes we think it's a luxury, or, oh, I'll recover when I have the time. I'll recover when things slow down. And that just doesn't really happen. We need to empower ourselves and create the recovery we want and need. Otherwise, we're going to be headed towards burnout. So here's what we're going to talk about. I have 4 types of overload. I'm going to show you them 2 at a time here. And I want you to reflect which of these 4 types of overload are most at play for you right now and in the recent past. So the first one that I think people don't always think about is task overload. This can happen at work. This can happen at home. I work a lot with working mothers, and so most of them are feeling task overload in both areas of their life. They just feel like they have too much to do, too many responsibilities, always running behind. The to-do list is like chasing them down, and they feel like sometimes a sense of resentment that they're carrying so much. So reflect to yourself, is task overload an issue for you? Sensory overload. This is where I was just actually feeling it a moment ago with my boys. My boys are off on summer vacation, and that means a lot more action, a lot more noise. So sometimes our senses, our sight is overwhelmed with clutter. Our ears are overwhelmed with noise, especially moms of young kids. Sometimes you get touched out because they're just on you all the time. And that can lead to overstimulation, feeling frazzled, irritable, and just stop talking to me. So if that happens to you, don't feel bad. Just realize I have sensory overload. So are you experiencing that? Reflect to yourself. The next one is emotional overload. And that looks like carrying all of your stress, all of these emotions that are unresolved, as well as everyone else's. This happens a lot for leaders. It happens a lot for mothers, people that are sensitive and empaths. And if you can slow down and realize, oh, wait, this is what's happening to me. I say I'm stressed, but really I'm worried about what's going to happen with my business. I'm worried about my mother's cancer diagnosis. I'm frustrated by my kid's behavior. Just naming what the emotion overload is really important. And the last one, which is kind of a trick, it doesn't sound like overload, I call it understimulation. This is having not enough of the things and the people that energize, inspire, and fulfill you. And this happens a lot with the working moms I work with. They feel like they've kind of lost parts of themselves. They're so focused on doing that they're going through the motions, and they don't have enough creativity, curiosity, or connection in their life. So if you're comfortable sharing in the chat, you don't have to, but I'd love to hear which of these 4 types of overload are most at play for you: task, sensory, emotional, or understimulation. That's always interesting. And that's the first step. It's what overload am I feeling? And the next step is to select from a recovery menu that I'm providing you. So if you said, oh, good, I've got one task, one all of them for sure. Sensory, okay, a couple of sensory, great. These kinds of overload lead to often very different types of recovery. And so it's really good to know what you're dealing with. So let's start with task overload. If you're dealing with task overload, you're going to want to look at the strategic recovery and sometimes the physical recovery if you're feeling exhausted. So I don't have the time to go into this in great depth or detail, but essentially what strategic recovery is getting at the sources of your overload and slowing down and taking the time to think strategically, what can I do differently to carry less? So the strategy I go to first and teach the women in my program is called DDR. Delegate, defer, and redesign. Using the DDR strategy, I've had women go from, I'm so overloaded with meal planning, I spend 6 hours a week, to having that to 3 hours. I've had a leader go to work and say, hey, you know what, I'm not interested in leading that team anymore, that project. It's really just a weight on my shoulders and it's just stressing me out. And their leader said, okay, you don't need to do that anymore. So it can really shift what we're carrying, which is really important to address strategic recovery. What I'm going to give you in this handout is hyperlinked here, a free resource, a free 7-minute video on YouTube, and a handout with lots of examples of how to do this. So I won't go into it anymore. The next here is physical recovery. And so if you're feeling super overloaded at work and at home, one of the things you will need is probably physical recovery as well. So the first one here is protecting sleep, right? We need more sleep when we're overloaded. And also you'll see the last one here, engaging in gentle movement. So Deanna just did some yoga poses with us. That's a great gentle movement. I also highly recommend walking or doing a walk and talk. So that is really important. For those of you that are feeling that sensory overload, I call that nervous system recovery. And again, I've provided you a free resource in here that you can look at after today's session. I call it a sensory soothing guide. Essentially, you can look at what are your 5 senses taking in and how do you get rid of the things that are overloading you and how do you soothe your senses by surrounding yourself by, for instance, less visual clutter, less sound overload, and more calm senses. I have a woman in my program that has started a recovery morning where she has a slow morning. She sits outside on her deck with her coffee and she looks out at the view. So that's a form of nervous system recovery, feeling that warm coffee, being mindful and looking with her eyes. So there's more there, but just for the limited time, that's some examples of nervous system. Emotional overload. I recommend, again, physical recovery if you need that, but emotional recovery is its own kind of recovery. So the strategy that I recommend for all the women in my program is journaling. And I have a way of doing that in a very quick, simple way, but essentially checking in with yourself. I do it each night when I can, and kind of celebrating your wins, identifying what's draining my energy versus giving it, and recognizing, like, what do I need right now? I teach people healthy coping skills as well. One of the things that also I recommend is building in activities, not only addressing the kind of heavy emotions you're feeling, but also bringing in some lighter emotions. Kind of what are the things that bring you some energy and uplift you? And I think that leads me nicely to what I call reconnecting recovery. So if you were one of the folks that said, like, I feel like disconnected, I don't have enough joy, creativity, anything in my life, I have some examples and some ideas for how to reconnect better, and some examples of how you can reconnect with your interests, reconnect with the people who energize, support, and inspire you. For instance, my dad is on the call today, and I often have a walk and talk with him at night where we check in with each other. It actually hits multiple sources of recovery because I'll tell him what I'm struggling with, or I'll share and celebrate my wins with him as well. So this is, it's really important to reconnect, not just with the people that you're caring for, but the people that care for you. So, and also you'll see on here, based on your faith system, that really leaning into your faith as well as your values and purpose are things that can be really important that just get lost along the way when we're so focused on our daily lives. So what I'm going to give to you is this handout, and it has a few questions to help you come up with a recovery plan. First being, what's my top type of recovery and practices that feel most useful to you? So if you wouldn't mind putting in the chat, just what's one recovery practice that I showed you or you thought about just now that you want to build into your life? It could be something as simple as, I'm going to rest or sleep more, or I'm going to take a walk or do a walk and talk. I'm going to journal. Any of those are good recovery practices so long as they fit the type of overload that you're feeling. I recommend thinking about where it can fit into your daily routines, like your morning wake-up routine or your bedtime routine. But I also think this is something I've learned from the women in my program, that some women feel like the day-to-day, it's so variable, you can't really predict what one day is to the next. So I recommend using like your notes feature in your phone and just list for yourself, when I'm overwhelmed, remember to blank. So Cito, thank you, saying journaling. So remember to journal, or remember to take a breath. And Deanna just told us, maybe not the deepest breath of your life, breathe through my nose. Creativity, awesome. Lisa's saying she's coloring and sewing lately. So just like putting a short list in your phone of what to do instead of the numbing that we usually do. Yes, connect with people who give me energy. Every time I journal, I reflect on who I connected with that day. I put a little heart and a line, like my dad, Deanna. And then the next day, sometimes I'll jot a note on who I want to reach out to. These are really valuable little practices that start to bake this into your life. And I always recommend, think about how you can get started and who can help you. Maybe there's someone today that you could talk to and say, hey, I really want to work on journaling or breathing, reconnecting. Will you do this with me? Or let's check in once a week. So I want to just give this quick closing that, this is never about perfection. This is about leaning in to just noticing what you need. And I want you to remember that recovery is not selfish. This allows you to show up as who you want to be and have the energy for the things that you do in your life. Like, I know you provide impact to other people, and you can't pour from an empty cup. And finally, notice that when you feel like you don't have the time for recovery, you feel like you're too busy, that's when you need it the most. I'm having to tell myself that this week when I'm so excited about everything I'm doing, but it's just too much. That's when you need to carve out those little times. And if you feel like you have too much to do, that's when I recommend doing a capacity reset that I linked you to, because then it's going to help you realize, what can I hold less of? Do I really want or need to do this? What can I defer towards later? And what can I redesign to make simpler, easier, or lower the bar to actually be achievable? Isabel, I love that you're going to build in more me time and opportunities to bring joy into your life, including when your kids are around. So wonderful. I thank you so much, all of you, for being here today and for participating in the chat, keeping the chat alive. On the handout, you'll see the links to my socials at Dr. 𝗵𝗁. Feel free to follow me there, share my videos with people that would use it. My coaching website, I just did a new video this week. And then my LinkedIn is a good place if you are in an organization or a leader of an organization who you think could use more of this. Like, they could really support well-being and performance and actually lower turnover, promote more retention in their leaders and their teams. That's a good place to reach out to me. And I will hang out for a little bit longer if you want to share anything or ask anything. I also want to say, obviously I provide different kinds of services. I'm doing a coaching program right now called Sustainable Success for Working Mothers. I'm going to launch another cohort of that in September. But in the meantime, happy to provide free consultations, including a free 30-minute consultation. And I just appreciate you engaging today and sharing the word if you think someone could benefit from what Deanna and I provide, just to share information. So I will stay on if you have to leave. I totally get it. You have other things. Amy, thank you so much for coming. Amy, I know that mental health providers need, well, both of you, Amy and Lisa are here, our therapists. I know that we can use more recovery. So I've been thinking about doing maybe a group format, even specifically for mental health providers. Just let me know if that seems like it would be interesting to you or others that you know, because I'm really open to doing a variety of things that will just make the most impact for the people who need it. So please let me know. Thank you so much, Lisa, and everyone. Thank you, Wanda and Amy. Thank you,
you for your
Dad, for
attention.
coming.
Yes.
Did I say I have the best dad? I do. I really do.
You do. You're very lucky to have a.
I am. I won't fight
dad.
anyone though. Other people can have great dads, moms, I won't fight you over it, but I just have to say, for me, he's the best ever.
And thank you again for doing this. This was wonderful.
Good. That's awesome. I'm so glad you liked it. And I'm, of course, excited to do this for organizations. So just let me know what you're thinking. Oh,
we have a women's group at work. We also have a affinity group for caregivers, for like parents and like people taking care of sick parents, or
my gosh,
like,
I love
caregivers that we do.
I love that that exists
too. Yeah. So that one, we don't do a lot of in-person meetings, but the women's group, we meet every month and it's mostly Zoom. So I'm going to share all of your information with that because I think this was wonderful. And I think a lot of, like, we talk about this a lot at our meetings too. Most of my friends at work are moms, and like navigating that at work and the stress. And a lot of us travel for work too. So I know I was just talking to my good friend who I'm excited to send this document to as well. She couldn't make it today, but she just came back from maternity leave and is kind of like in all of the emotions of like not seeing baby all day, and but also being successful at work, but also like feeling really guilty about leaving him at daycare and like
oh my gosh, she's all of those ideas are great. Exactly the kind of people I'd love to help 𝗠. I think that women, working moms for sure, but like what you said and what Deanna said, it reminds me of some videos I made that even the professional side alone can lead to burnout. Like, you know, I was so desperate for a break. I was like, sure, put me in a hospital bed. That's cool. That sounds great right now. Like that alone. So that's why I really want to, work and specialize with working mothers, but also work with people like professionals and organizations. Because I also see how certain organizations are kind of like burnout factories, and people are struggling. And so if we can improve those conditions and help women and like you said, caregivers, like people caring for older folks, like my dad cared for my mom when she had Alzheimer's for 7 years. And so that's really made me passionate about trying to help. Well, I want to let y'all go on to your other things, but is there anything else?
Thank you so much.